Hello and welcome to a special edition of PublisHer Unmasked. As a reminder, PublisHer is a worldwide community of professional bookwomen working together to tackle the gender disparities that continue to be found at the top of the publishing industry. Unmasked is a series of virtual interviews with inspiring bookwomen from around the world, which PublisHer filmed and posted online during the lockdown in 2020. You can watch these interviews on the PublisHer YouTube channel. Today, we are thrilled to be interviewing the person who started PublisHer and a woman who has done more to change the status quo in international publishing than anyone else I can think of. Bodour Al Qasimi has too many hats to mention. So in the interest of time, we're going to focus on three. Bodour is the president of the International Publishers Association, the CEO and founder of UAE-based Kalimat Publishing Group, and the founder of PublisHer, which she started in March 2019. Bodour, welcome to PublisHer Unmasked.
Thank you, Emma. It's so great to be on the receiving end of this interview. I've been watching all of your other interviews and they've been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Well, welcome. We're delighted to have you. After all of these inspirational women that we've been interviewing around the world, we felt there was one missing, and one perhaps of the most inspirational women in publishing today. So thank you for agreeing to come on and do this with us.
Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be here.
And we'd love to explore why you got into publishing and your journey since you founded Kalimat Publishing Group, which was, I think, about 14 years ago now. So you've been in publishing for over a decade. But if you can cast your mind back to when you thought about setting up Kalimat and give us a bit of insight into what attracted you to publishing as a career, especially given that you studied medical anthropology at university. It's quite a big change there.
Yes, absolutely. You know, when I was a student of medical anthropology, I never imagined my career would turn into publishing. I always knew I was interested in humanities, in human development, in cultural diversity. But when I became a publisher in 2007, I discovered that the two fields are actually closer than I'd originally thought. Publishing is really about allowing authors to tell their story, sharing their voices, their imagination, and ideas. Medical anthropology is also an examination of interrelationships between humans. So it's this interconnectedness that really interested me. So going from medical anthropology to publishing wasn't such a great leap, but rather a natural progression for me. And of course, there's also the love of books, which has been the case since I was a child. My family's house was full of books, and both my parents were prolific readers. So I grew up with a love and appreciation of all things book related. And I believe that also helped me transition seamlessly into the world of publishing.
I think that's really inspirational for people that are studying different subjects at university and have never thought about publishing as a career, to think we don't just have to study English literature at university in order to go into publishing. So making that link is a really interesting way of looking at things.
Of course, and publishing is in all languages. So actually having diverse knowledge of different languages, especially that my publishing house is in Arabic, it was important for me also to come with it with an open mind. So I think, there's no one career that can take you into publishing.
And so what inspired you to actually set up your own publishing company, and why Kalimat, and what journey has Kalimat gone on to where it is today?
You know, my daughter and I had an eye-opening conversation back in 2007. She didn't want to read Arabic children's books and preferred to read English books at the time. And that really interested me and concerned me, because I believe that it's emotionally healthy for a child to be grounded in their own culture and language first before opening up to the world. She found the Arabic children's books that were available at the time to be boring, old-fashioned, not very engaging. And in a way, I agreed with her. I could see why, to a child, these books seemed rather dull. And I thought, if this was my child's experience, then surely other Arab children are going through the same experience. I did some research and it confirmed my conclusion. So I decided to create Kalimat to address this issue. I made it my mission to create high quality Arabic children's books that were beautifully made, they were modern, engaging, but also reflected our culture and our experiences. And our books became a big hit locally, which encouraged us to go regionally and globally, reaching other Arabic speaking children all around the world. And then we decided to move into adult fiction and young adult literature, which was a big decision for me and a big leap forward. Overall, it's been such a wonderful journey, starting with a simple conversation with my daughter. It was so clear to me what was needed, and I'm pleased that it's been a success, not just for myself, but for Arab culture in general, which has so many stories to tell.
And so many Arab children can now enjoy the beautiful Kalimat books, which are very aesthetically pleasing, as well as the content being really interesting and exciting for kids as well. They're really beautiful books that Kalimat now makes.
Thank you.
And I've often heard stories about publishing houses starting over the kitchen table as well. And that's often how publishing houses begin, which is great. And so what have been the biggest challenges that you've had to face in your career in publishing, and how do you think you've overcome those challenges?
It might sound like a cliche, but honestly, I think that every challenge that I've faced has been an opportunity, and I take these as learning experiences for my own personal growth. Clearly, as a woman, I had to deal with a lot of preconceived ideas about me from time to time, especially regionally. And in a way that probably slowed me down a little in the early stages of my publishing career. In some respects, it was challenging, but having a different perspective has also been a big advantage for me because I had a fresh vision, a unique perspective of publishing locally, regionally, and at a global level. And I'm glad that I pushed through these challenges because at this point in time, and in a very rapidly changing world with technology at its helm, publishing, like other sectors, needs a fresh perspective, new energy, different opinions, not just the status quo. So the challenges were really opportunities for me that led me to be the president of IPA. And now we all can look back at the challenges as opportunities to reinvent the publishing industry and put it back on a healthy track for growth in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So talking about those challenges, we were wondering if there's been anyone that's inspired you on your publishing journey or something in particular that has motivated you.
Thank you, Flo, for that question. Actually, so many people have inspired me on this journey. Firstly, my family, my parents, who are both book lovers and prolific readers. I think also the cultural environment that I was brought up in was a great inspiration. The Emirate of Sharjah is culturally rich, and so books and reading are essential pillars of its development strategy. Then, of course, my children, the reason I started Kalimat Publishing in the first place. Sometimes children have a way of seeing things and speaking the truth, which is always a blessing. And I'm constantly inspired by people, my colleagues at IPA, the wonderful people I meet around the world as I try to help and develop the publishing industry globally. I'm motivated by the joy that books bring to people, the inspiration, the hope. I'm also motivated by the belief that books can change the world. Books give us a glimpse into other people's views, their ideas, their cultures, and their visions of the world. And the more we understand each other, the more peaceful and cooperative we'll be.
So on that as well, is there something that you are particularly proud of in your publishing career so far? And what would you say being a publisher means to you?
Thank you for that question. In general, I think I'm proud of myself and how I adapted to so many different situations to keep moving forward to the present day. I don't think as women we celebrate our own successes enough, and we always undervalue our struggles and achievements. And I think it's time that we stop doing that. I'm also proud of the creation of PublisHer, of Kalimat Foundation. But I must say that founding the Emirates Publishers Association has been one of the highlights for me. It was the beginning of my journey into regional and international publishing. Being the first woman president of a national publishing association in the Arab world hasn't always been easy. But when I look back on it, it was really a defining moment for me, which brought me to where I am today. It propelled me to a new world, which made me face many different aspects of the industry, going to industry events, meeting people, especially women who I felt were unrepresented at management level, coming across different cultures and around the world and seeing the challenges that they were facing. And it was also my introduction into IPA. So when I look back, I really feel this was an important step for me in terms of having a vision of what I wanted to do with my publishing career.
And it's been definitely a long and interesting journey, Bodour. I know that we met a long time ago, and so I've been had the pleasure of observing you on your journey to where you are today. I mean, what was it really about IPA that interested you in becoming onto the executive committee and then progressing to vice president and now where you are today as president?
Yes, I mean, we've known each other, Emma, for I'd say over 12 years now, maybe even 14 years. So it's been a long journey. And when I was president of the Emirates Publishers Association, I attended many industry events around the world. I was invited to events, panel discussions, brainstorming sessions. And at this time, I was traveling nonstop, meeting members of the publishing industry, hearing about their business models, technology, reading culture, consumer behavior. So it gave me a good understanding of the global publishing industry. And I was really interested in exploring this dimension. I also wanted to make a difference to bring more diversity into the industry. So I worked closely with the IPA, and it was a natural fit for me to progress to join the executive committee and then VP and president. And I'm absolutely honored to have this role and very excited, mainly because I believe I can offer an alternative perspective, help the sector grow, become more diversified and more inclusive.
And we're now in the privileged position, I'd say, for the first time of having a female president and a female vice president. And I'm very excited to see what you two are going to do together. But I wondered if you could give us an insight into what your objectives are for your presidency and for working together with Karini.
Definitely. I mean, the key objective now is to stabilize the industry and continue supporting our members to deal with the impact of the pandemic. Another key objective is to have a clear roadmap that can help the sector navigate its way to the future and build on its strength. We're hoping to achieve this through the INSPIRE Plan, International Sustainability, Publishing and Industry Resilience Plan, which is a future growth plan led by IPA with a multi-stakeholder publishing task force, comprising of representatives from every link in the publishing value chain. In parallel, we also have another objective to help build the capacity of publishers, especially those struggling with the transition into digital services. So this is why we will launch the IPA Academy, which is an online platform that will aggregate publishing training resources in multiple languages and will be available to all our members. Another key objective is to make the industry more diverse and more inclusive with more gender equality. And in this context, I was really happy to read the latest news from the UK Publishing Association, who in their recent report indicated that they achieved a new global benchmark. Over half of executive leadership and senior management roles held by women went up to 52% and 55%, up from 49% and 41% in 2017, which is really great progress. It's a great story to tell, which will surely help us address the existing gap more quickly. And of course, I'm really happy to have Karini Pansa as the new vice president of IPA. We're already working closely together to achieve these objectives. And I love the fact that for the first time in IPA's history, there are 2 women at the top management level. I think it gives a great example to the industry, and I hope it inspires other women to progress in publishing. And in parallel with these objectives, of course, we will continue defending the most important ideals of IPA, freedom to publish and copyright.
Absolutely. I mean, that sounds like a hugely ambitious plan that you've got over the next 2 years, but I'm sure it's really about not only the next 2 years, it's about setting the foundation for years to come with some of these programs and some of these activities that you're putting in place now. You've already started exploring what the impact of the COVID pandemic has had on the publishing industry in various parts of the world. And I wondered if you could see any trends or any particular areas that you feel are particularly impacted by the pandemic.
Absolutely. I mean, despite the fact that I don't see challenges, I just see opportunities. I think the next 5 years are going to really determine the future of the industry. The trends that we see now in the world are accelerating in every sector, and we have to be adaptable. But I think the biggest challenge for us right now, maybe in 2022, is to weather the pandemic storm, as you said, with the least damage possible to the sector. And that's going to be a very important undertaking, given the huge differences in publishing markets worldwide. The pandemic clearly demonstrated that we need to reinvent publishing. We need to find a new identity. You know, as publishers, we always need to have to rethink our business models, and all of those trends that are coming up are not slowing down. So we need to be able to determine our position in the next year or so. However, I mean, I can't speak for all markets. Challenges are going to be different in different markets. So I have to say that in itself is going to be a learning experience. In the report we launched in November from Response to Recovery, the findings really speak for themselves. The markets that fared well were those with existing digital structure and digital culture and infrastructure. So the transition was smooth and the impact of lockdown was not severe. And I believe that these markets have the necessary culture to adapt to any new changes introduced by technology. However, when you look at the other side, there are other markets that came to a complete halt and that they have now decided that they can't move forward because their digital infrastructure is really weak or non-existent at all. So the challenge now is to make sure that most or all publishers have digital transformation plan and that they have the necessary culture to support and implement them. We also have to learn how to understand the world of consumer behavior with data-driven insights. And this will allow us to implement market-driven approaches to publishing that will keep us relevant to an ever-changing reader. Of course, another challenge that is in front of us is freedom to publish. It's always been a challenge, in my opinion, as some governments are going to try to implement several means of censorship to curtail the publishing of content, especially digital content. And we need to remain vigilant. And in the same context, we see violations of copyright and piracy. And this is why publishers need to continue to work closely with their governments, with IPA, with civic bodies and international organizations, so that we can put in place necessary procedures and mechanisms to protect copyright.
Brilliant, thank you. So you obviously founded the PublisHer movement. And what was your rationale behind this, and what do you hope to achieve with the network?
Thank you for that question, Flo. Yes, PublisHer is very close to my heart. I'll tell you a little bit about how it started. So in my travels around the world, I met some fantastic women who were working hard in the sector, but were underrepresented and struggling to be heard or seen at management level. There was something ingrained in the industry which needed to be addressed. And so I decided to take action and founded PublisHer, and as you mentioned, a network for female publishers who want to create change. The network began meeting during side events at book fairs and then transformed into a working group as we looked at addressing publishing sector gender gap, especially at top positions. We examined together how we could bring about that change, which led to some fantastic collaborations to try to find solutions to finding more gender balance. And today it continues to grow and we have some great supporters and their voices are being heard, which is our main objective.
Yeah, so with the kind of initiatives, what have been the ones that you've launched under the PublisHer program, and what can we expect to see in the future?
So we've provided female publishers with tools and the support necessary to allow them to grow in their career. We're also providing in the industry with some guidelines and tips to help them implement true diversity and inclusion practices in their business. We also rolled out a mentorship scheme, and the success of the mentorship scheme meant that we are going to reintroduce that again this year. And we're also going to launch our first ever toolkit on Women's Day, which we will share with you very, very soon.
So from your experience, what programs do you think have been the most effective in helping to support women in getting ahead in publishing, whether that comes from kind of offering them opportunities to communicate between each other, or the mentorships. Yeah, it'd be great to hear what you think.
My advice, I think, to women would be really to believe in themselves and to be bold in their vision, because this is something that I face constantly when I talk to women about their career, about their publishing journey. This is something that we need to repeat as women in the industry and share with each other constantly. Nowadays, the environment is more supportive of women than before. It's far from being ideal, but in comparison to just a decade ago, the culture is very different. And that means opportunities. So, for example, when I was interested in running for leadership in IPA, I mentioned this to many people around the world. And I know Emma was one of those people. We were sitting in Sharjah Book Fair, and I was talking about my ambition to run for president of IPA. And there wasn't always that support, I wasn't always having people supporting me in my bold vision. So now I just tell people, believe in yourself. Don't listen to the naysayers, because there are a lot of people who will pull you down. But really, if you have a strong belief in yourself, you could make it.
Yeah, as a woman starting out in the industry, it's really inspiring to hear your advice and also kind of see what happens when women mobilize. So thank you, Bodour. And I'm going to pass back over to Emma to wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, it's been fascinating talking about your career so far, Bodour, and the challenges that you've faced and how you've overcome them. And I do think, to echo Flo's sentiments, that's going to be an inspiration to women all over the world. And I really do recommend and encourage anyone who's watching this who hasn't signed up to PublisHer, to the network, to receive the newsletter and to watch our interviews with inspiring women from around the world, to do so, because there's lots of people who have come up through the industry in different routes and have faced different challenges and have overcome them and have got some great advice as well. We're really looking forward to the toolkit coming out as well, the one that you mentioned coming out on International Women's Day. I think that will be a real support to people to implement within their organisations and to learn from as well. I'd also like to say I'm really excited again about what's to come, because you've achieved so much in those 14 years. I know the next 2 years in your presidency are going to be really exciting, but I'm excited to see what comes after that as well. I'm sure you've got plans in mind for the future as well. But thank you very much for everything that you've done for the industry and for women in publishing in particular. And long may it continue. So thank you, Bodour.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you so much, Flo. It's been a real pleasure talking to both of you. Thank you.